Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking at how my team lines up for this weekend's Game Week 12, let's look back to how things went before the international break. The game week started almost perfectly, with Cancelo racking up 2 assists and a clean sheet away to United, with 14 points his biggest haul of the season. It was nice to finally be on the receiving end of a haul from Cancelo, who since buying him 5 game weeks back had been putting in superb performances and racking up goals and assists in the Champions League, but not having any FPL points to show for it in the Fantasy Premier League. I say it was an almost perfect start, because Ruben Diaz also racked up 7 points with that clean sheet away to United, a player that I sold last week, who only managed a pitiful 4 points in the 4 game weeks that I owned him. Frustrating, but to be fair, I was always going to bench him for this one away to United anyway, so despite the frustrating timing, I can have no real complaints. As for the rest of the defence, it was a poor showing, and with 2 Chelsea defenders, I had real high hopes of them keeping a clean sheet here at home to Burnley, so that late goal from the Clarets played a big part in my game week. Over the past few weeks, I think the points that both Chilwell and James have offered has really emphasised the upside in choosing wing-backs as your defenders in FPL, as opposed to the centre-backs like me, a rule that we've known for a few seasons now. However, in my defence, neither James nor Chilwell's places were nailed when I wildcarded him back in Game Week 7, hence choosing the more boring and what I thought to be the safer picks in Rudiger and Christensen. It hasn't been a particularly rewarding double up with these two, especially watching Chilwell and James rack up an absurd amount of points in the meantime. And although I'm usually very averse to making sideways transfers, the sheer contrast in points here has really shown they can pay off. There was also disappointment from Jose Sarr once again last week, and that's now 5 game weeks and 5 blanks since wildcarding him in. With that decision, I don't think there's any excuse, it was just a poor one, with the alternative Aaron Ramsdale scoring 16 more points than Sarr in that time. The thing that has made Sarr a particularly poor decision on my part is that I also chose to spend the extra 0.5 million on him, so not only am I 16 points down, but it's also cost me extra for the pleasure. He's certainly a player I'd like to get rid of soon, with Wolves not looking likely for clean sheets. However, with Norwich and Burnley in 2 of their next 3 games, I'll hold on to him for now, and then look to get rid when their fixtures really take a turn for the worse in Game Week 15. I think Game Week 11 summed up a lot of those close 50-50 calls and just how costly they can be. And another example was opting for Bukayo Saka on the wildcard in Game Week 7 over his teammate Emile Smith-Rowe. Another very close call that couldn't have resulted in a much greater contrast of point swings. Smith-Rowe with 35 points in the last 5 game weeks, whereas Saka has scored just 14. Not to mention costing me an extra million at the time. It's been a really frustrating 5 game weeks owning Saka, especially with that disallowed goal against Watford. Moving Saka on to Conor Gallagher does seem a very decent swap this game week and is certainly in consideration. However, with my defence also needing some work, Saka may just stay put for now. With that home fixture against Newcastle coming up in Game Week 13, maybe justification enough to keep him. Last game week, I made what I felt was a more aggressive and risky move, and rather than being reactive with my transfers, I tried to be proactive, using 2 free transfers to bring Harry Kane into my squad early as a differential. The reason I felt this was quite risky is that I already had Son Heung-min, and whilst the big debate over on Twitter in recent weeks has been which Spurs attacker to jump on, I figured why not buy both, with great fixtures on the horizon and with hopefully a new manager bounce from Antonio Conte. Considering I'm ranked around 300k, I thought what better differentials than this pair, and not many teams will own both. It was also a risky strategy because Kane has been underperforming massively and costs a ridiculous 12 million. So that's a huge outlay for someone who's not been delivering, and it was a classic case of looking at fixtures over form. After the first week of owning both, with that lacklustre 0-0 draw against Everton, it's fair to say this move couldn't have gone much worse, especially with Everton shipping 8 goals in their previous 3 games. Sadly, Spurs didn't even register a single shot on target, so that is not a good sign, and after this game, I certainly feel it could be a significant mistake to have brought Kane in. This could be a big turning point in my FPL season, but whether that be a good turning point or bad one is still to be determined over the next few game weeks. During the first few days of the international break, I definitely felt a huge sense of regret, when the sensible transfer would have simply been to bring either Reece James or Alexander-Arnold in, and then wait to see how Harry Kane performed, even more so because I already had Son and that was probably enough. It's done now though, so I've made my bed and I've simply got to lie in it. Don't get me wrong, it's still early, and if this pair can deliver against Leeds in game week 12, and then go on to hit some kind of form for the next few games, then it's happy days. But with that lacklustre opener against Everton, I couldn't have asked for a much worse performance or result FPL wise, especially considering that both popular options Alexander-Arnold and Reece James delivered once again, cheaper, better value players that I could have very easily have brought in last week. Despite the Spurs pair letting me down, heading into the last fixture of the game week, I was looking at a sizable green arrow up to 240k. Decent, and that was mainly down to Cancelo and also Rafinha scoring again last week. The only thing I needed from that final fixture was Alexander-Arnold to stay quiet away to West Ham, a game in which I really fancied Liverpool to concede. However, despite conceding early, Trent delivered 2 assists and full bonus, resulting in a significant 90k drop in the rankings. I did feel a bit hard done by here, because the nature of the second assist was extremely fortunate, where the ball was essentially cleared into Alexander-Arnold, and that gave him an assist and also took him from 0 bonus points to 3. So a bit unlucky for me there. But again, that was always a possibility. When you go without one of the best assets in the game, you're always asking for trouble, and he's been a player I've spoken about getting back for a few game weeks now, so there was every chance of me getting punished eventually. So for game week 11, it was an underwhelming score of 50 points last week, and as mentioned, a drop in the rankings to 330k, all down to that Trent Alexander-Arnold haul in the final fixture. As I mentioned, that was always going to be a possibility. I think I'm just more annoyed at myself, that by transferring in Harry Kane, I've essentially priced myself out of getting Trent back anytime soon, at least without a hit. I'm not averse to taking a -4 to bring him back in, it's just difficult with my current team structure, therefore it may have to wait for now. So after a longer than usual team review, which has been more of a therapeutic cathartic 6-minute release of all those frustrations built over the international break, let's now look forward to game week 12 and see how my squad currently lines up. Also, if you do enjoy the content here at FPL TV and want to continue watching the ups and downs of my FPL season, then be sure to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when a new video goes live. I'd say for the opening 11 game week so far this season, I've been very happy with how my starting 11 and squad in general has shaped up. Granted, my team may not have performed very well, but I've at least felt each team that I've put out has looked rather solid. This game week though, game week 12, is probably the first game week of the season where I'm not feeling overly optimistic about its chances, with a lot of cracks starting to show. There's the misfiring Tony and Saka, Rudiger and Christensen instead of the more attacking pair of James and Chilwell, as well as Jose Sarr in goal, facing an impressive West Ham side that are surely bound to score this week. There's also the absence of Alexander-Arnold, which, as I've said for a few game weeks now, always feels like a big hole in the squad. All this, not to mention both Kane and Son, who have both each blanked in 3 consecutive game weeks now, so I desperately need a performance from them against Leeds. What I do like about Kane and Son is their high chance of combining with each other, wherein if one of them scores, there's a good possibility the other will assist the goal, and considering they're both big differentials, if that happens, that could really fire me up the rankings. So I'll say again, I really need a performance from these two this week. I believe my game week really hangs on them. As for transfers this week, with 1 free transfer available, it's likely Reece James that will come in for his teammate Andreas Christensen, a move in which I have just enough cash in the bank to make. Leicester away in game week 12 isn't an easy fixture, but having watched James the last few weeks, I don't think there's any more justification left not to bring him in, even with difficult fixtures. The way he's playing at the moment, he's basically a cheaper version of Alexander-Arnold FPL wise, offering superb assist and goal threat, whilst also playing for a defensively solid team. For this reason, at 5.9 million, he's still offering ridiculous value, and after watching his performance against Burnley, a game in which I thought he was outstanding and could have easily had 3 returns, that display confirmed to me he just has to come in, better late than never. With James looking like my free transfer in, obviously he'll head straight into my starting 11, and that will likely shift Saka to first on my bench away to Liverpool. However, with recent reports suggesting that Andy Robertson could miss that Arsenal game with a hamstring injury, that does have me second guessing now whether to play or bench Saka for this fixture, because with Robertson out, surely that gives Saka a better chance of some attacking returns down that left flank. As mentioned, Leicester away is no easy fixture for the Chelsea defensive double-up, so I am now debating whether to play Saka instead of Rudiger in this case, something I'll weigh up before the deadline. Up front, Ivan Toney has been a big letdown in the 3-game week since buying him, and this fixture against Newcastle could be his last in my team depending on how he performs. Depending on that performance, downgrading him to a budget striker and switching to a 4-4-2 next week could be a possibility, and that's one route of then getting Alexander-Arnold back in, so we'll see how it goes. My gut says though that this Newcastle fixture could be the one where Toney finally delivers, facing his old club who I'm sure he'll want to show they were wrong to let him go. As for the captaincy in Game Week 12, it's still hard to see a better option in my squad than Mo Salah again this week, who does usually go big against Arsenal, boasting an excellent record against them. A Son or Kane captaincy should be a consideration, but I think simply owning both of these is differential enough. And considering their recent performances, I just don't see enough justification to hand them the armband and move away from Mo Salah, with the Egyptian king so incredibly consistent, returning in all but one of the 11 game weeks so far. Madness. So that's my team review and preview covered for the upcoming Game Week 12, and if you did enjoy the video, then don't forget to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed. Good luck to all of you watching for Game Week 12, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.